Hi guys, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. Welcome to my first official video while I'm on summer break. I hope that all of you are on summer break. The end of the year was rough. That was just like the longest school year of all time. Honestly, like, you know, kind of okay at the beginning, a little bit wobbly. The middle, we were kind of figuring things out, but then like the last couple of months were just like, all right, we have had it, we are done. So I am thrilled to be on summer break. I spend every day right here in my office reading and working on other fun stuff. So one thing that I found on YouTube that I thought was just so cool was this playlist by Crash Course that I hadn't seen before. Like, Crash Course has so much. There's US history, there's world history, there's psychology, there's biology, there's whatever. So there's also media literacy, and I was thinking about all of the things that I wanted to do next year with my 7th grade English students surrounding digital literacy, media literacy, and just being able to thoughtfully consume media. And media applies to everything. Everything is media. We have at our fingertips on our phones just so much media that we're inundated with every single day, plus on our TVs and on our radios and newspapers and magazines, if anybody reads those, billboards, movies, books, TV shows, all of that. So I was like, okay, this is an overwhelming task to teach these skills to middle schoolers because most adults don't have any of these skills, like have very, very few of these skills. So this is gonna be a lot. So I thought I would just put together a couple of the really, really great resources that I've found online where I'm just like, oh, I don't have to come up with this from scratch. Like, other people who are experts in this area have already come up with this amazing curriculum that we can use. So we will be able to teach this well. It's just a matter of like finding this stuff and then adapting it slightly just to make sure that it's useful and accessible for your students. So I have 5 really, really great resources for you to teach media literacy to your students next year. They kind of vary as far as difficulty and age appropriateness and grade level appropriateness and stuff like that. There are probably some others that I'll just throw in here for fun. But let's take a look, beginning with the Crash Course Media Literacy playlist on YouTube. So obviously all of these videos are free. They're hosted by Jay Smooth, who's a radio DJ in New York. Hello to the mailman outside my window. That's not awkward. Anyway, these videos are excellent, and there are 12 of them, and so it goes pretty deep into like the history of media and money, media and persuasion, the technology that, you know, like creates the algorithms that keeps us on social media platforms and all of that. So I would say that these videos are most appropriate for high schoolers, and I would really, really hope that all high schoolers graduate with this knowledge. So if you teach high school, probably upperclassmen in particular, I really hope that you'll use these videos to teach your kids these just imperative skills. Now, the videos are very, very well done. They are in that Crash Course style where all of the information comes at you pretty rapid fire. It can be a little bit difficult to pay attention. They're each about 10 minutes long. So I went through each of the videos and watched them slowly, pausing where there was important information, and I put together a digital interactive notebook so that your students can watch these videos like in class, and you could pause and have them type in the information, or you could assign these videos as homework and they could just like watch on a split screen, watch the video and then type in the information as it comes, and then you could discuss it later or however you want to use it. And again, there are 12 videos, so you could kind of like stretch this out over 12 or 13 weeks and like discuss one topic each week. Or if you wanted to like condense all of this into one like pretty intense media literacy unit, this would be about 3 weeks or so. So it's quite a bit of content. And then at the end of the interactive journals, I also provided places for students to practice like applying these skills that they use and applying them to just any form of media really. And then also a place for them to reflect on how they're going to like use and create media, like what are their own personal boundaries. People have different boundaries when it comes to media and social media, and like what you will allow your phone to track about you, what information you will willingly put out there on the internet. I mean, I think I'm a little bit of an anomaly. I put quite a bit out there, and I also take in quite a bit, but I do it all very thoughtfully. A lot of other people are not nearly as comfortable taking in or putting out as much information as I do on the internet. And it's very much just up to the individual person. So there's also a place to do that. So I'm gonna link down below this media literacy interactive notebook, again for high school classes. This is gonna be so important. I also created some posters based on one of the videos where Jay Smooth kind of presents these 5 questions that you can ask of any piece of media. So whether it's an Instagram post or an online newspaper article or a story on CNN or Fox News or PBS NewsHour or any, just really like any piece of media on any platform, you can still interrogate it with these 5 questions and come to a better understanding of if it's useful to you, how it's useful. Maybe it does have its limits, as any piece of media is going to have, but is this useful like as a tool in like some knowledge that you're trying to build? Or maybe it's just completely useless. So I'm going to be using these posters this year. For my 7th graders, I think that these videos will be a little bit too advanced, but I will be using the posters. So for you middle school teachers out there, the posters will still be something that you could implement. And for the middle school teachers, I am also working on an interactive notebook for us. The first one I did, the media literacy one, I was hoping that I could use in class, but it just, as I was going through it, I'm like, there's no way to scaffold this enough to make it useful for middle schoolers. So high schoolers, that one's yours. Middle schoolers, I found another playlist through Crash Course, and this one is hosted by John Green, and this one is called Navigating Digital Information. So it's a little bit different than like the whole category of media literacy. This is just looking at digital information. So it's some of the same content, but it actually is pretty different, and it is more well suited to middle school. So I will be linking all of that stuff down below. So depending on what level of students you teach, and I have some stuff for elementary in just a second too, don't worry. But all of this will be linked down below, so you can just kind of pick and choose what's gonna work for you. Now, the way that I actually found this playlist is because I was looking at a different website called the Stanford History Education Group, and they make some of my favorite history resources, but then they also have this section on their website dedicated to civic online reasoning, and I have used these resources before as well. My laptop's right here. Sorry if I keep looking over at it. The content here is really good. Kind of with everything on the Sheg website though, the content itself, amazing. You're always gonna have to do a little bit of work to adapt it to make it like digital friendly. If you just want to print a million copies of everything, that works as well. And like that's what I used to do, and I was really happy with it. But now that I like to do things a little bit more digitally, I kind of have to like do an extra step and kind of switch a lot of this stuff over into like a Google Slides format or whatever. But I was looking at this, and John Green partnered with them to make content that has like this video component and everything. So this civic online reasoning curriculum is great. And as I'm looking at the website right now, there is a free 3-session online institute for professional development. I'm gonna link this down below for you as well. Okay, so August 9th through 11th, there's a civic online reasoning sorting fact from fiction PD. Oh, this one isn't free. Sorry, it is $375. But if this is something that you could get your department to pay for or something like that, I have been to this. It just wasn't online. This was back in the day when we did a in-person training like at our county office, and this is excellent. So I've done it in person. I highly recommend it. I think I've been to like 3 different Stanford History Education Group trainings, and they have had a huge impact on the way that I teach both history and informational text in English. So I highly, highly recommend these. What was I just talking about though? Oh yes, okay. So one of the most important skills that I learned in one of those trainings was the concept of lateral reading. So let's say that you're reading an article on one site. Open up that next tab. Like, doing this technique is gonna really fill your browser tabs, but that's okay, that's what you wanna do. So you want to teach your students to now Google, okay, who is the author of this piece? So let's look them up and see kind of like, you know, what their background is, what they tend to write about, what's their expertise in this area, etc. Open another tab. Who is the publisher of this piece? Have they won any journalistic awards? Do they have a good reputation? Are they funded by someone who has a particular stake in this topic? Maybe look up some of their funders. So you want to go down a little bit of a rabbit trail, and you want all of these browser tabs to be open so that you are getting a fuller picture of the information you're looking at. So this one, so good. There's even a lesson on like using Wikipedia, like how can we use Wikipedia responsibly and usefully, because it's there, and a lot of teachers are like, just, you know, never use Wikipedia, that's not a real source. But it has its uses. Evaluating photos and videos, infographics. So all of this stuff is really great as well. So this is a little bit more targeted towards middle school students. They're gonna be able to just like grasp it a little bit more easily. The media literacy stuff is a little bit more like theoretical. So we've got both of those for you. I'm gonna slide in an elementary resource for you right here as well that John Green also had a hand in. So there is this website, I guess, called Be Internet Awesome, and it has 4 different categories of skills for using the internet responsibly, and it teaches everything through games. I have a couple of older videos of me like live teaching some of these lessons to my 6th grade English students, I believe. And it's really good stuff. You could use it even with like 4th and 5th graders as well. And I remember hearing that Pear Deck has all of this organized in Pear Deck format as well, so that it's a little bit easier to teach. So again, all of this stuff is like amazing, but it's most useful if somebody organizes it into like Google Slides or Pear Deck or whatever, some kind of format like that, so that it's most useful to you like digitally. So use all of this stuff and piggyback on the most easy way to teach it. Okay, on my list I have all of that. Somehow is only just 2 things. I don't really know how that's working out, but to recap, the media literacy crash course videos, and under those I have the interactive notebook that makes them easier to follow, as well as posters. And then number 2 is the navigating digital information playlist, and under that I also have my interactive notebook, as well as all of the information on the Civic Online Reasoning section of the Stanford History Education Group, because those 2 things like worked together. And then Stanford History Education Group also has online trainings. And then John Green also partnered with the Be Internet Awesome curriculum that is appropriate for elementary school. So I have a very wide-ranging 2 topics there. So number 3, on Nearpod, they also have all of these resources for digital citizenship and literacy. So all of this stuff is kind of similar. It just depends on what you have access to. So if your school is like a Pear Deck school and that's what you guys use, then use that with the Be Internet Awesome stuff. If your school uses Nearpod, then look up these digital citizenship and literacy lessons. If you're a Google school and you can push out my interactive notebooks to your students really easily, do that. So I'm just trying to give you kind of like a wide range of resources that can fit whatever it is that your students are used to and that you are used to and that your school can kind of like accommodate. Just to give you a little bit more information about the Nearpod lessons, so there's Fighting Cognitive Biases, which is really great information, and this is geared towards 6th through 8th graders. There's also a cognitive biases section in the media literacy videos, but again, that's just like at a higher level. So for the 6th through 8th grade age level, I would recommend using these. Sourcing information, evaluating evidence, and then I also noticed that they have lessons for K through 2, different ones for 3 through 5, evaluating media for 9th through 12th. So on Nearpod, it looks like they have all of the grade ranges just organized in the same place. So check that out as well. I have a link for like a Nearpod discount, I believe, down below. So I will link all of this stuff underneath this video. There's gonna be a lot of information to keep track of. Okay, next thing. Someone is like blowing weeds outside the window, but okay. News literacy project. I went to a training with Facing History and Ourselves, and it was like a 5-day training. And on one of the days, all we did was use stuff from the news literacy project, and it was great. In-person trainings, you guys, I guess, or online trainings, but so much of like what I do and what I know is because I've just physically spent hours and hours in so many trainings, learning from professionals and people with all of this amazing expertise. So a lot of this stuff is just coming from that. So the News Literacy Project, excellent. You might have heard of Checkology. So that's like a portion of it. Let's see. Ooh, we are excited to showcase a new and urgently needed Checkology lesson called Conspiratorial Thinking. It teaches students how and why conspiracy theories develop, what makes them seem so compelling, and how to avoid falling into their cognitive and emotional traps. So that sounds amazing. I would really like to use that. They have a resource library, newsroom to classroom. Oh, this program connects educators and vetted journalists who will visit classrooms either in person or virtually. Really, really interesting. They have a podcast. They offer professional development, of course. And for some reason I'm not seeing it right now, but they have a lot of like infographics and stuff like that you could also like print out and put in your classroom or post on Google Classroom or whatever. This stuff is so complex and it's weird. It's just like happening all around us and to us, and we're participating in it, in all of, you know, this news sharing and content creation and everything. Like, we're doing it all the time, but it's so important to like take a second and step back and look at how all of this works and like the larger network that we're a part of. So there's so much good stuff. The 5th thing that I want to tell you about is on the ICIVICS website. ICIVICS has really, really fun games about government and civics, and so they have one called News Defenders, because a really, really big part of being a responsible citizen is, you know, the First Amendment, journalism, like understanding what's going on in our government and then acting on true reporting in a responsible way. So this is a really fun and challenging game with really good graphics, and you can pick your avatar and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely recommend this iCivics game. And again, this would be great in an English class. So I used to use a lot of the iCivics stuff when I taught 8th grade US history, but even now that I'm just teaching English, and I teach ancient history, but there's not as much civics to do there, I still like to use this website. Oh, and opportunity to plug my book. This is the book that I just wrote that's coming out right now. Leaders and Thinkers in American History, 15 Influential People You Should Know. And one of those people started iCivics, one of my favorite websites ever. It was started by Sandra Day O'Connor, who was the United States' first female Supreme Court justice, and her story is really, really fascinating. It's just ridiculous to look back at her life and see how smart she was and how much she accomplished, and how like nobody would hire her still because she was a woman in like the 1960s. But she worked her way up, like mostly working government jobs. It was really hard for her to get a job at these like high paying private law firms, but she could work for like crap money at a government like district attorney job and stuff like that in Arizona, I think is where she was when she was starting to do that. So she like moved up the ranks as a judge. And then in the end here, in my little tips for you section, or explore more section, I talk about icivics.org, the website that she founded. So if you would like your students to learn more about Sandra Day O'Connor, you could also go through this chapter in my book. Let's see, this video is going up on Sunday. My book is going to be out on Tuesday. So if you order it right now on Sunday, it'll probably get to you in 2 days or 3 days. So you won't have to wait very long. So pick up a couple of copies for your classroom. I have a few other videos that detail what's in the book a little bit more. But yeah, so those are my 5 recommendations plus a few little bonus things. So there is enough content and resources and support out there for us all to do a really, really good job teaching media literacy, digital literacy skills. It's just a matter of kind of like compiling all of these resources and figuring out how to use them best all together. So if you have already used any of these resources, please tell us in the comments down below what some of your favorite lessons were, or what was the outcome of some of these lessons for your students. What kind of things are they learning, and what kind of like aha moments are they having? If you haven't really taught too much like media literacy in the past, but this year you are planning to, what kind of things are you going to focus on? What do you think should be kind of like top of our mind at the moment? And I know that this also makes people a little bit nervous, because they're anticipating that some parents who maybe love to spend time on Facebook sharing memes and stories that they've never actually read with a bunch of clickbait headlines might not appreciate this type of teaching. But this is important information for all of us to know. And if you do look at the media literacy playlist, they get into like the history of media and fake news, and none of this is new. I mean, I know it feels like we're living in a very politically charged time, and we are, and it is a time when people have so much access to so much news that it can be really overwhelming. But you know, since the foundation of our country, if you're in the United States like me, they had the penny presses that were sharing all kinds of information about revolution and breaking away from England. And then you had people who were loyalists that were also printing what they thought, and people who were like disparaging each other. We had many of our early politicians who would write under pseudonyms and attack each other all the time. It was like their Finsta, you know? Like none of this stuff is new. Tensions have been high over political issues and laws many, many times over the history of our country. Think back to the antebellum period before the Civil War. There was all kinds of media out there that was pro-slavery, that was abolitionist, that was anti-racist, that was racist. And all of those things influenced people. And we have to just be aware of kind of the evergreen techniques that people use and the instincts that just our human brains have. A lot of this stuff just doesn't change. It just is placed into a different political setting, a different cultural setting, a different technological setting. But a lot of it is just the same stuff that we've always been dealing with. So I'm really looking forward to spending quite a bit of time on media literacy this year, and I will, of course, do some documenting of that here on YouTube and on Instagram. And I can't wait to see what you guys do as well. Oh, and if you are a journalism teacher, if you have the great fortune to teach a journalism class in, you know, middle school or high school, all of this stuff would be really, really useful and interesting and applicable to what your kids are doing. So definitely, you know, like English classes, even kind of some social studies if you're teaching elementary, and then obviously journalism and like media studies classes and stuff. All of this stuff is great for that. So hope you guys are having a great summer so far. I will see you in my next video. Bye.